Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It is 6:07 on News Talk 105.9 WMAL. On a good Friday morning, we are jamming, we are grooving. It is Patrice Onwuka here with Julie Gunlock.
I can't even be grumpy with that music.
Thank you. We're affectionately known as Larry's Angels. Please keep Larry in your prayers right now as he's
That's right,
traversing
yes.
some difficult family things. But we're holding down the fort. We're trying to fill in the gaps here. At 7:05, we've got Christian Daytalk, White House correspondent for The Examiner. At 8:05, Susan Ferrecchio, good friend here, national politics correspondent at the Washington Times. And at 8:35, Susan Crabtree from Real Clear Politics, the national political correspondent, will be here as well. We've got all of the journalists on the beat, covering the White House, covering Congress, here to catch us up. All right, so Julie, it is officially Women's History Month. If folks didn't know, every month is something. And this month, though, we are celebrating the accomplishments of women. And we both work for Independent Women's Forum. Julie is like my sister from another mother, if you didn't know. If you didn't know, follow us at Julie Gunlock, right?
Yeah, at listen to me. I don't even know my own.
At J Gunlock and
J
at
Gunlock.
Patrice Pinkfile on X, and you'll see a throwback picture to the two of us together.
That's right.
Julie posted this morning. But we celebrate women every day, and we recognize that women, are not all on the left. We certainly believe in free markets. We believe in personal liberty, and we, believe that the federal government should be limited and the individual maximized to, to pursue their dreams, their God-given potential, all of that good stuff. The left thinks women are just their ovaries, and the left doesn't even know what a woman is because they call a man with prostates a woman. So the left has put out their own Women's History Month video, and it's going viral, not surprisingly, for being cringy and a little bit crazy. Julie and I we're going to play this clip, but Julie and I
this is entirely visual, so it's
Yes.
hard on radio.
So we're going to try to walk you through it.
We'll try to.
We're going to try and walk you through it, and we should be able to share it on the WMAO social media this morning as well. Just to give you a heads up, you're going to see some there. You're going to hear. Well, we will talk you through.
Hold on. It's very important. You could very seriously. This is very important. You could die of cringe. Okay.
Oh no.
So
we
want to put that
pull
warning.
over, folks,
if you want, pull over. If you're going to watch this, be warned. You might die of cringe.
All right, go ahead. Let's let it rip, Michael. All right, so first up, you've got this lawmaker here. These are all women in Congress right now, and these are kind of the up-and-coming rising stars. It's called Choose Your Fighter. Suhi Jessica Wu out of Queens.
Yeah, and then next is AOC, who is clearly in a strip club. I don't know where she's. It's like the walls are zebra covered. There's this little settee. Looks like a leg lamp. So yeah, that's a little weird. Keep going.
And then after that, you've got here Representative Lauren Underwood. She's the youngest black lawmaker. She's trying to be serious, but she's in front of an American flag. You could tell probably just like a stage or something like that.
I think it's important to say that these women are they're doing in sort of the cartoons where the superhero jumps into the scene and they're sort of bouncing up and down and they're in a fight stance, kind of like a karate stance. Anyway, next up is Representative Catherine Clark. Yes, she's the House Minority Whip, Massachusetts 5th Congressional District, and she notes that she's not into hair dye. She's has gray hair. All right.
Yep.
That's her
and then you've got Judy Chu. She's, let's see, where is she from here? California's 28th Congressional District, first Chinese American woman elected to Congress, and she's sweet. I will give her, I love her pink blazer, but that's about it. She's definitely getting the superhero stance all wrong.
Were you annoyed that everybody was sort of stealing your look on the night of the speech, wearing all that pink? You must have been annoyed. You do it better than all of them.
Well, thank you, Julie. There's a reason why my moniker is Patrice pink file. I do love pink, and listen, they can wear pink all they want. They still don't know the difference between pink and blue.
Yeah, they can't wear, no. But they put their white jackets on to pretend to be suffragettes, and then they do this pink stuff. And the thing that is so vile is they did that on the heels of voting against removing men from women's sports. It's so disgusting. Okay, but I feel like I got all the good ones. I got AOC, and now I get everyone's, the darling of the Democrat Party, Jasmine Crockett. Yes, the Democrat Party spokeswoman. She's, of course, from the Texas's 30th congressional district. She says she's a public defender, attorney, and not a morning person. And I have to say that Jasmine Crockett seemed like the only one who could actually kick some butt. She looked kind of...
Throw hands.
Yes, I feel like she could probably kill someone.
All right, last but not least is Representative Susie Lee, Nevada's 3rd Congressional District. She's president of Communities in Schools of Nevada, and she has 2 sprained fingers, which is probably why she couldn't make a fist properly. But she has this weird outgrowth of fur or feathers coming from her chest, so I don't know. Maybe she's got some sort of superpower. Listen, I get that people want to do viral videos. Democrats, they've been missing. They've been swinging and missing lately on the videos. We saw earlier this week the montage of Democrats with the same line trying to debunk, I guess, President Trump's address before the joint session of Congress, and they all use the exact same line, and it fell flat. This, for Women's History Month, is going to fall flat because if these women will not vote to support biological females only playing female sports, only being in female locker rooms, only being in female spaces like prisons and women's shelters, then they are not a champion or a fighter for women.
You know, I think, frankly, I have to say, I cannot stand like Women's History Month. I know.
Really?
Oh no, I hate this kind of stuff. It's divisive, you know. And then you have you have to have this particular group's History Month, and this particular group's History Month, and this particular group's. And again, it's that sorting. I don't like that. It's that sorting into categories, and you only should identify by because your sex or because of the color of your skin. I don't like that stuff. I sort of, every time there's a, name the group History Month, I find these things to be very divisive. Now, I think President Trump, in announcing Women's History Month, was sort of attaching some other legislative priorities and some other sort of funding and other things. And that's fine. But again, I don't like these blank history months. I think they're divisive, and I don't think we need it, especially in this day and age. I feel this sort of collective pride about America right now. I feel like we're sort of all in this together. Yeah. So again, I feel like that is a very leftist thing to do, is to recognize a certain group of people based on, again, sex or color or whatever. We're all Americans, and every day should be American History Month, in my opinion.
I will disagree with you, Julie. I actually do like some of these months. I do think some of them are hokey. Women's History Month, I do think it's an important time to recognize that women have come pretty far in this country. When you can imagine that you couldn't get a credit card in your name, there's so many ways that we can recognize the progress without being divisive. And I do agree that yes, American history should be taught and all of these lessons taught. But there is something unique about being able to focus a little bit and drill down a little bit. The challenge is it becomes unwieldy, because now everybody wants their month, and unfortunately, yes, the left does hijack it to promote their own liberal leftist ideology.
I know we're up against time. Michael's going to kill us. Yeah, we got to get to Jamie.
All right, let's get to Jamie Whitten. We can talk more on the other side of the break. It is 6:16 WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes. Jamie Whitten.
WMAL, making sense of the news.
So, yeah, we'll continue with our discussion around just these hokey monthly holidays. I think there's a place for them, but we also want to make sure they're not too divisive. Now, what is divisive, Julie, is the Bidens, Hunter Biden specifically. This is a man who is... I love that.
Thank you, Michael. This is the most delicious story.
Yeah, go ahead. Take it, Julie.
Oh, well, I honest to God, this family, I swear, all this grifting and, traitorous behavior. And it turns out Hunter Biden is broke. After all of that, he is broke. It turns out he's having trouble selling his paintings, his pretend paintings. Imagine that, Patrice. His dad is out of power now, right? In full retirement, and suddenly no one wants his paintings. Now, don't forget, the mainstream media, they did all these features on Hunter, how he's cleaned up his life, he's reformed, he's now an artist living in the Palisades. Which actually came into it. Hunter Biden is claiming that he's broke because apparently the house he was renting was burnt to the ground, and he's having trouble finding an affordable home, despite the fact that his parents own multiple homes, and he has been known to spend time in homes, especially the ones where his father is storing classified information. So this is just. I have to say, it's so gross. They've been out of power for a while. I'm not saying that their memory has faded, but this story is, it's just incredible. He's broke. He can't sell any paintings. He can't find a home. And he's actually dropped one of his cases because essentially he can't afford the lawyer to pursue the case.
This is remarkable, yeah. So the New York Post, Hunter Biden says his art sales plunged since his dad left the White House, as you mentioned, claims that he's broken a legal filing and now wants to drop a lawsuit against him around the laptop from hell being hacked. He said that he used to sell one of his pieces of art for nearly $1.5 million for the from between December 2023 leading up to that. He sold 27 pieces of art for an average price of $54,000, almost $55,000. Now he's only selling for about $36,000.
And this is the thing, Patrice. In this New York Post article, he says he literally says he's shocked that the interest in his work has evaporated. He said, given the political feedback, given the positive feedback and reviews of my artwork and memoir, I was expecting to obtain paid speaking engagements and paid appearances, but that has not happened. Can you imagine how delusional? This guy actually believed that people wanted this.
Well, he should, though, Julie. Had his father continued to be president of the United States, the cash cow, the money train would have continued for him. He would have gotten those speaking events. He would have been on even more foreign boards where he's pulling down $1 million salaries for doing absolutely nothing because his president is the president of the United States. So he's now claiming he's in financial hardship, and it is preventing him, as we said, from litigating the case against Garrett Ziegler. He said, quote, like many others in this situation, I am having difficulty in finding a new permanent place to live.
My God.
So boo-hoo. So we have people who have lost everything in the California fires. Hunter Biden is comparing himself to them.
Yes, exactly. He goes on the ending of this quote, while I was aware that my financial position had significantly deteriorated over time, it was not until the past month that I realized I had to take drastic actions to alleviate the situation. This is a 55-year-old man, okay, with multiple children. One of which he ignores. And
figure it out, dude.
And he suddenly realizes he's broke. And of course, he's probably going to run back to mom and dad. This is a really sick individual. Boy.
So Mr. Ziegler, who is filing the lawsuit here, or opposing him, said it in a statement to the Post, quote, Hunter wants to cry uncle. We are opposing that. We want our attorney fees to be paid. Nice. For Hunter to cease lying about us and me, and generally to shut the F up. This is an abuse of the legal system. I can't stand it. Our tiny nonprofit had to scrape together legal fees for nearly 2 years to deal with this Peter Pan-like man-child. Man, Mr. Ziegler is great. That's a fantastic quote. A Peter Pan man-child. I like it. Listen, Hunter Biden has the gravy train is over, and you know what? Hunter Biden is not the only person in Washington whose gravy train was dependent on the now we understand senile former President Biden. a lot of people's gravy train is now over. And they thought, well, maybe we'll just get a nice cushy job somewhere in the federal government and we will continue to undermine the Trump administration. And here comes Doge taking the hatchet and uncovering a lot of the politically motivated, partisan biased folks who thought that they could sneak by, even get their little multi-billion-dollar slush funds like what's her name down in Georgia on the side.
Oh, Stacey Abrams.
Like Stacey Abrams. All right. We'll, I'm sure we will have more on the Bidens, but it's 6:23.
Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:37 on News Talk 105.9 WMAL. You're listening to O'Connor and Company. It's Patrice Onwuka here with Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
Good morning. We are easing on this groovy Friday morning into this Friday and this weekend coming up. At 7:05, we've got Christian Day Talk, White House correspondent for the Washington Examiner. He's given us the latest on the White House news. At 8:05, Susan Ferrecchio, national politics correspondent at the Washington Times, will be here to catch us up on the congressional beat. And at 8:35, Susan Crabtree from Real Clear Politics, the national political correspondent there, will catch us up on everything with President Trump. All right, so Julie, we've been talking about a lot of delusional Democrats this morning, and one out of California, probably, well, no, not the biggest. I think the biggest one just returned to California after losing the her race against President Trump.
That's right.
But the next biggest there is Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. He's breaking out. He's breaking free, and maybe he wants to. We can get into why he's doing what he's doing, but in any case, he has launched a new podcast where he's trying to understand the mind of MAGA. Mm-hmm. So he's bringing in the big MAGA architects, leading figures in the MAGA movement to listen to them, to talk to them, to understand, to better understand how half of America thinks, and probably more than half of America on some of these issues, probably like 80% of America. He kicked off his podcast with Charlie Kirk, and they're talking about women in sports. Let's play clip 8, and I'd love to get your feed and your read back on it.
Sure.
Cut 8.
It's like you right now should come out and be like, you know what? The young man who's about to win the state championship in the long jump in female sports,
right.
that shouldn't happen. You as the governor should step out and say no.
No, and I appreciate
but like, would you do something like that? Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. So that's easy to call out, the unfairness of that. There's also a humility and a grace, that these poor people are more likely to commit suicide, have anxiety and depression.
Oh.
And the way that people talk down to vulnerable communities is an issue that I have a hard time with as well. So both things I can hold in my hand. How can we address this issue with the kind of decency that I think, is inherent in you, but not always expressed?
All right, so Julie, what do you think about that? Do you buy his argument?
This guy is honestly a sociopath. I mean, a psychopath. I don't know what the right path is, but he lies with such ease. It is honestly, it's like watching a horror show. He is so scary to me because this is a guy who has for years sort of, defended the idea of boys and men in women's sports. He's had absolutely no compassion for the women who have lost scholarships and places on podiums and medals and a future in sports because of these cheating men who have taken over women's sports. And, this idea that, it's only 10 people, right? That was the latest, that Bravo Andy, whatever his name is, guy.
Andy Cohen on Twitter was saying, it's only 10 people. No. Hundreds of women have lost opportunities because of cheating men in women's sports. And then Gavin, who for years has been an advocate for boys and men in women's sports, comes on this launches this podcast, obviously trying to remake himself. Yes.
Now, and look, this is entirely political. He is he absolutely is running, and he's trying to come off as a little bit more approachable, more savory to independent women, to independent voters. And look, I can't even say I'm going to give him credit. I won't give him credit because he's a snake. But again, he's at least smart politically, because when you have the Jasmine Crockett's out there who are so extreme and so sort of unpalatable to a lot of very good people, across the spectrum of politics. Mm-hmm. They don't like that. They don't like how she talks. They don't like how mean she is. And so they're looking for someone. I will say, okay, fine, I'll give him credit. It does appear that Gavin Newsom might be the only one reading the room and saying, okay, we've got to moderate, especially when our spokeswoman is Jasmine Crockett. But I find this just absolutely outrageous to hear him say, oh, no, I agree with you, and sound all reasonable. And, look, Charlie Kirk is great, and he has influenced a lot of young minds, and good for him. But I wish there would have been a little bit more aggressive calling
of Gavin a pushback on him. Well, listen, Gavin Newsom is getting a ton of pushback, and from his side of the aisle. California State Assembly member Alex Lee wrote in a post on Thursday, WTF. Trans people and LGBTQ plus people are under attack. We don't need our gov caving to conservative talking points that further hurt and scapegoat 1% of the population. We've got State Senator Scott Wiener also said, the governor has made many courageous moments over the decades supporting LGBTQ people. He has taken significant political hits for doing so, and I guess this guy is saying he's going to be grateful for that. Another California LGBTQ caucus member said, this is not one of those moments. Charlie Kirk is a vile bigot, and standing with him on an issue like this is profoundly disturbing. So he's going to be rocking a lot of boats. Perhaps he's not worried about the money that's attached to supporting LGBTQ plus, I don't know how many letters, causes. Maybe he's okay losing that funding if it means that he's going to gain other funding in the future. I absolutely agree that he's moderating, trying to run to the center. But I got to admit, I'm looking forward to his next podcast, what else he's going to admit to. All right, it is 6:43 WMAL traffic.
WMAL, making sense of the vote, because elections have consequences. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
So, Julie, continuing on with our discussion about Gavin Newsom's podcast and some of the things that he's actually coming to grips with now, he was speaking with Charlie Kirk, and we talked about women in sports and what he said about protecting women's sports and men in women's sports. He also talked about the larger issue of parents and transgender issues with their children. Let's play cut 10, and I'd love your response.
You signed a law where school districts can't even tell parents if their kids are trans.
Not true.
Okay, then
no, they can. They just can't get fired for not doing that. And it wasn't just trans.
Fired for not.
The law was explicit. Said you can't be fired for not snitching on a kid, not just for being trans, for being gay. And my point is, how in the hell?
But shouldn't the parents know?
They have every.
By the way, parents snitching?
No, the teachers themselves have the right. The law is they can do that. They can do that. We're not saying you can't do that. We're saying you shouldn't be fired if you choose not to say Johnny was talking about liking some other boy.
That's a charitable reading. The other
it's
way
not charitable. It's actually the freedom not to.
Let me tell you the other way to say this: that a teacher, of course, should be fired if you don't notify a parent of what's happening to their kid. Of course, they should be terminated for that.
Yeah, can you tell my head is about to explode?
Go for it, Julie.
He's such a snake. He's just so smooth how he sort of turns. No. I'm all for parents. I love parents. It's just that we can't fire a teacher. I mean, you need to start following libs of TikTok if you think that there aren't teachers out there that are grooming kids and are introducing these complex and really sick concepts to kids at a very young age, and that if a child is going through this sort of crisis, if they are having trouble with their own identifying with their own sex, that is something that a parent should know about. And so he basically says I signed a law that let these teachers keep secrets. It's exactly what Charlie Kirk said. He said, didn't you sign a law that really removes parent rights? And he's like, no, I just protected teachers, right? I mean, this is the kind of wordsmithing people have to understand about Gavin Newsom. First of all, he lies. He lies so smoothly, so easily.
Yes.
That should creep people out. But then he sort of wordsmiths it. So it sounds like, oh, no, it was just it was a teacher protection bill. No, this was, he hates parents. He wants to remove parental authority. He wants to detangle kids from their parents.
Yes.
And again, remove this idea that parents are the best arbiters of what their kids need. And for goodness sake, if there is something, it's like what we deal with here in Fairfax, where there's ODs, there's overdoses in Fairfax schools. And Fairfax is like, no, we don't need to tell the parents. Can you imagine? It's insane.
We shouldn't accept it anywhere. And you know what's great? We have Susan Crabtree coming on a little bit later, and she actually pressed Gavin Newsom. We have a flashback video, audio of her pressing him on him investigating California school systems or California areas that were passing, lawmakers that were trying to pass protections for parental rights when it comes to notifying their children, notifying the schools, notifying them.
I'll have calmed down by then. By the time
we will ask her more about it. But I mean, absolutely, this guy is slimy, he's sleazy, and he's going to run for president.
Yes, he is.
And notice, I think he's very much positioning himself as the heir apparent for 2028. It's not going to be Kamala Harris. She's disappeared into the forest and she can't find her anywhere. Himself, he's not going up against Trump, and I think it's intentional. He is trying to galvanize his support and his public reshape himself, as you said, to gain this more center, middle of the road kind of view, and then watch him emerge in the second half of the Trump administration to start being that kind of Justin Trudeau of California. Mark my words. All right, it is 6:52.